I was at the HRRFY. It's the secret horror movie festival where something genuinely fucked up happens every year. And I mean every year. Like, there are some screenings that unleash hordes of bats while the movie is playing. You're free to leave whenever you want, but the movie will still play for 2 hours and 15 minutes. Other screenings hire actors to turn at you and scream at some point in the movie. You have no idea when, or how many times. It's a festival where the word illegal can't even begin to describe what happens. You're forced to sign an NDA if you attend, and you'd only attend if you were a young, stupid edgelord like me who was trying to prove he was hardcore to his friends. Trust me, do not go. You have nothing to prove to anyone. Don't be stupid. If you really want to know what attending HRRFY is like, I'll be quick and summarize the one screening I went to. It was the 20th anniversary and I was lucky enough to get in. I had signed up on the HRRFY dark web forum, where I'm pretty sure my identity may have been stolen, but what can you do? Through a series of cryptic forum DMs, I solved the sequence of riddles and was entered into the lottery for a HRRFY entry. Lady Luck took a shine to me because one day in my mailbox I received a physical ticket. I had done it. I was going. The actual ticket was a black USB key that announced the location of the festival the night before, which I won't disclose here, otherwise I may be hunted. I was pretty much forced to pay for a very expensive flight in order for me to make it on time. You see, to prevent getting shut down, the location of HRRFY changes every year. It's always a small town you've never heard of, where the authorities can't catch on to what's happening until it's well over. Upon arrival, I had to pick between 3 secretly participating theaters. Based on title alone, I decided to see Many Drownings, directed by Alexander Golansky, though that might have been a pseudonym. It was in the theater that was furthest away from the downtown core, which meant it was likely the one where the craziest shit was bound to happen. That's what I came here for, right? I lined up a solid 2 hours before the screening like everyone else. The entire line was jittering, just vibrating with excited 20-somethings. Rumors flew left and right. I heard they're going to force everyone to take acid. I heard an actor's gonna run in and shotgun the ceiling. I heard they're going to disappear like 4 more people this year, at this screening. Each year people disappeared, and each year the same people were found. And yes, this is the worst part, and why you should never ever go to this event. Again, I will repeat myself. Do not go. No one has ever truly gone missing at HRRFY in any legal or physical sense, because every missing person always shows up a day later, convinced that they are fine, refusing to elaborate further. The reason they can't talk is because of the intense NDAs attendees sign. If anything were to leak, they'd be dead. As a result, there are some small support groups for people who have family members who'd gone to HRRFY and came back irrevocably changed after being quote-unquote found. These few unlucky people lose all semblance of personality. They don't want interviews or help or therapy or contact of any kind, and they never ever want to talk about what they saw. Some HRRFY fans think that these found people were body snatched, cloned in a lab, replaced by a cyborg, or something stupid like that. But I think there's a far simpler explanation. The found are still the same people. They're just terrified. They got shaken by something that shattered the foundation of their mind, body, and soul. They got too scared. They got HRRFY'd. I should mention I had a cough the day I went, and I was worried my sickly appearance might give me trouble at the airport. So I invested in an intense double N95 mask, which I wore for the whole flight. And I continued to wear even at the screening of Many Drownings. It made my face hot and uncomfortable, but it didn't stop me from yelling, excuse me," as I ran to snag a seat in the back of the theater. I always preferred sitting in the far back. You get a good view of the whole screen, and a good view of the whole audience. Beside me sat a big dude named Sylvester, who apparently flew all the way from Australia to attend HRRFY. Worth the full 17 hours, mate. It's gonna be epic. He dropped a massive camping backpack beside me, which I assume contained all of his luggage. The lights dimmed, and the production company logo started to play. The whispering, giggling, and suspense all stacked upon each other to create an electric feeling in the air. I was giddy. It's like the entire audience was embarking on a massive roller coaster. The anticipation was the best part for sure. It might have been the only good part. Then the movie started. It was a wide shot of a gray, stormy sea. The waves were massive and the thunderclouds were looming. There was no land visible in any direction. All we could hear was the sound of waves foaming, swirling, and crashing over and over. Lightning crackled, rain poured. The camera had held perfectly still over the storm, as if it was mounted on a perfectly hovering drone. A drone so resilient that it didn't waver at all. I thought it had to be CGI. The shot held like this for the next few moments. Everyone sat glued to their seats. Everyone was thinking the same thing. What's going to happen? How are they going to scare us? People chuckled. People cheered. People wanted to tease whatever was going to happen already. But nothing did. 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes went by without any change. People started snoring. I looked beside me and saw that Sylvester, the most excited audience member of them all, had fallen totally asleep. The jet lag must have gotten to him. Then I peered beyond the rest of the audience members and saw other people snoozing too. Heads were keeled over. Some people were curled in their seats. Some had even spilled out into the aisle and were dozing on the floor. I looked above the bright screen, at the huge vents in the corner of the theater. I saw a faint white gas emerging from the vents. Holy shit, what have we been breathing? I tightened the straps on my N95 mask and made my breathing shallower. The gas must have been pumping since the opening credits, because how else would an audience of 200 people all fall asleep? As I moved my hand through the air in front of me, I could sense the thickness. It was definitely hazier than usual. I took the scarf off my neck and wrapped it around my mouth as well. Then I spotted movement in front of the screen. There was a tall blonde man wearing a black trench coat and military-grade gas mask. Beside him arrived 6 hazmat suits who started pointing at various audience members. I slunk in my chair, pretending to sleep like everyone else. 2 hazmats walked over to the front row and picked out a sleeping guy in flannel. They lifted Flannel up under the armpits and by his ankles, carrying him between them both like a hammock. The hazmats walked back up to the stage where the blonde leader inspected the flannel man and tapped his head. Something was approved? The hazmats began to swing Flannel back and forth as if they were getting ready to toss him. Despite their masks, I could hear a very muffled, very distant countdown. 3, 2, 1. The Flannel audience member was tossed into the screen. I literally watched him fly into the image of stormy waves and fall into them. The Flannel man sank into the gray water like a rock, leaving a few bubbles and foam. A wave came crashing down. All trace of him was gone. What the fuck? All 6 hazmats began grabbing more audience members with much more urgency. It became a minute-long process where they would pick the sleeping person up, bring them beside the screen, and then swing-toss them into it. How was this possible? I turned slightly to see if there was a projector above me, and realized there was none, which meant maybe there was no screen on stage, which meant maybe it was a portal. I tried to wake Sylvester by shaking him. I pinched his leg and arm a bunch. He was out cold. The hazmats started grabbing audience members from the middle rows now. They were emptying the whole theater. What the hell was I supposed to do? I waited until they grabbed another batch, only a few rows down from me. When all hazmats had their backs turned, I broke into a run. With my left arm, I tightly gripped my mask and scarf against my face, while my right arm vaulted me over seat after seat. I had never breathed so hard through so much fabric in my life. The hazmats all turned to me. Hey, hey! But their hands were full with their next victims. I ran all the way down the aisle to the big exit sign on the left. My heartbeat filled my head. My plan was to dropkick through the exit door. I imagined myself breaking through like some flying gazelle. I jumped. I angled my kick. It might have as well have been a brick wall. I fell ass first to the ground, followed by my head. Of course, the door was locked. Through a muffled mask, I heard a sneering scoff. "Where do you think you're going?" Above me stood the one wearing a trench coat. I could see his piercing gray eyes through his gas mask. I rolled aside and tried to run by him. He lifted a foot and tripped me without effort. My forehead bashed into an empty seat. It dazed me. The blonde leader bent down and grabbed me by the neck, tearing away my scarf and mask. No, no. A sweet, ether-like smell filled my nostrils. I did my best to hold my breath, but I could already feel myself getting lightheaded. The other hazmats joined in, grabbing me from all sides. Even if I had the strength to struggle, there was no escape now. Above me, all I could see was the dark theater ceiling and some of the light behind me from the cinema screen. 3, 2... No, please, don't do the... Splash. I was plunged deep into cold, wet chaos. My head was completely underwater. Gagging, bubbles, spinning. I fought for dear life, dog paddling like a maniac. Churning, freezing, panic. For a second, my head popped above the water. I inhaled all the air my lungs could muster. I stared across a vast, violent ocean. An enormous 30-foot wave came in my direction. My whole body lifted higher and higher as the wave approached. I did my best to tread water. It seemed to be working. Then a series of smaller waves arrived and smacked my chest. Splash. Spinning, kicking, flipping. My view alternated between the pitch-dark ocean beneath me and the moonlit night sky above. Again I swam to the surface, popped my head out, ravenously sucked in air. There was a small lull in the water. Around me I now registered the other theatergoers. Most of them were lying face down or sinking, but a few were flapping about like me, fighting for their life. And above all of us, a floating white shape. It was painfully bright. I had to lift one hand to look at it. My jaw dropped. It was the movie screen hanging completely still in the air. It showed a dark, empty theater, the exact same theater we all occupied moments ago. It was tremendously high, above all our heads. There was no way of reaching it. Then I saw another 30-foot wave come our way. It grazed the bottom of the screen. I knew what had to be done. One of the theatergoers happened to be on a college swim team. She was the first one able to traverse one of the giant waves and climb into the screen. Once she was up there, she found a fire hose in the theater and reeled it out to us like a rope. One by one, we swam as hard as we could, praying to God we could reach the rope. Everyone's energy was sapped. Your body can only sustain itself on adrenaline and fear for so long. By some miracle, 5 of us got out. I was the last. I climbed the rope, coughing and vomiting. I had swallowed so much water that my stomach felt swollen. When I reached the top and they pulled me into the screen, I sobbed. I couldn't stop crying. My life had flashed countless times before my eyes. In bubbling, suffocating visions, I saw both my parents and my brother. I saw my high school graduation. I saw my favorite Christmas from when I was 6 years old. I had almost lost all of that. I had almost lost everything. On the dirty, carpeted theater floor, I lay with my face down, savoring the fact that I now lay on a hard surface. God bless the ground. God bless this filthy, popcorn-strewn ground. Beside me, I heard bantering, hugging, the wringing of wet clothes. Sylvester was the second last to be saved, and he was particularly vocal. Whoa. He came and drummed me on the back, lifted me up. Oh my God, dude, holy shit. I sat on my knees, wiping the tears and snot off my mouth. Sylvester clapped his hands, held his face, and screamed some more. Holy shit, dude, that was so fucking scary. Like, literally, people were dying beside us. I saw people die. I nodded, shivering in my drenched clothes. I know it was... That was crazy. He laughed and stood up, patting everyone on the back. He kept clapping his hands like this was some sports event. That was sick. He ruffled someone's hair, then ran up to me with an open palm. High five, dude. We made it. High five. Don't leave me hanging, dude.